And we are live. I think we're live. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Actually, it's good morning. I don't even know what I'm saying here. Good morning. We got a lot of the usual suspects here. I just want to say today a couple of stories. Let's start with the first story. Payroll numbers. Now, one of the big issues I remember this year was AI was gonna kill jobs. Now we're dead here. But you know what? Like the job growth number isn't huge, right? It was the ADP number was under. I think we did 98,000 jobs, but remember, everybody was expecting everybody's expecting a lower, just like job killers. And it's not really coming to fruition. So all I will say is you've got VIX down on the day. We started off down a little bit because all of the chip stocks were down. The market kind of didn't like the number. But I have a feeling that some job growth, right? Job growth is better than nothing, and earnings growth is better than nothing. Hold on, I got a little alert here. Look at this. A little reminder here for myself. Alrighty. And I've got big tech over here. How hard? I'm just going to say this: if Apple's rallying, Amazon's rallying. Let's see. Google was trading a little higher today. Meta, Microsoft, right? If the Mag 7, maybe Nvidia is down a little bit because of the chip situation, right? But if the hyperscalers sort of resell, that could be a good thing. But as far as job growth goes, the fact that jobs are growing still, and the market was expecting AI to just kind of kill jobs, I don't know if that's coming to fruition. So anyway, if you have thoughts about that, pop it in the chat. I do know that around Maine, just anecdotally, still driving down, there's always job openings everywhere, basically. So that has not gone away. And I do have a surprise for you. Our guest today will be Mark, hopefully coming in from wherever he is in Michigan in his undisclosed secret location that he goes to every single year with like 100,000 Sebastians. Every Sebastian on the planet comes to the same place in Michigan, apparently in the first week of July, or sometimes it's the last week of July. I don't know. But he's been doing it for at least as long as I've known him here at Option Pit, probably longer. All right. So the second story today is, and I want to make sure I get this right. Right, layoffs are actually cooling. So I guess my next question is: can the market sell off if jobs are growing and layoffs are cooling? Like, is today the day we hit 750 SPY? Like, we've gotten close yesterday. We were almost there. Let's just take a little look-see. Yeah, I think there's too much symmetry. I know this is a goofy thought, but you got the 250th anniversary, and like I don't see how we're not 7,500 or higher by the 4th of July. So that would mean today, tomorrow. I would just assume here we got this like classic morning pattern where we sell off and then keep going. And I guess this is a pattern Mark talks about all the time. But if your morning sell-off doesn't really hold, where are we going? As long as we have some job growth, which we're saying, also the pace of layoffs cool to just under 46,000 from 48,000 expected. So all of the news is much better than they thought. The job cuts have actually dropped from the first half of last year, almost 700,000. Remember, we had tariffs last year. There's a lot of uncertainty at this point. It was back and forth with China, all kinds of stuff going on. And now that tariff, the tariff thing is roughly settled. There's some revenue coming in, although I guess some money has to be kicked back. But now we have the job cut pace is half of what it's last year. And don't forget, the federal government really isn't hiring, or they're still reducing payroll as well. So all of those things, I think, are, again, they're all net positives. We still sort of have the Iran conflict hanging over. I guess we haven't heard anything for the last. So Friday after the close, remember, everything looked kind of ugly. We had that drop on Friday. So for the most part, I'm going to say we have a data-driven positive week. And if the Mag 7s start picking up again, it's going to be hard to imagine stocks can't make a high. Just saying. So I'm going to expect us to close at highs of the week by Friday afternoon. And we already got an idea what the payroll number is like. We're hiring, just not as fast as we thought. And that puts us I think, in a good position till the end of the week. Anyway, put your thoughts in here. Kind of position that way. I would prefer be easier, I should say, if just stocks keep lifting toward the end of the week. But right, we're now starting to get a little more weekend effect. Mark and I will talk about that in a few seconds when he pops on. And lastly, let's just say, what is this? Bitcoin, right? Let's go to the last month. So Bitcoin is kind of having a hard time. So by definition, MicroStrategy, I guess it's just called strategy now, is having a hard time. So are investors chasing anything else? So Bitcoin was 70,000. It's now 32,000. What is it, like down to $59,000 or something like that? What's to keep it from the slide to continue here? I don't know. As far as people dumping it to find other investments, I don't think I can't call it strategy. It's just too dumb. So MicroStrategy, that can't hold it up. I just want to take a little look at this. But here's the thing: anybody in here think it is going to be able to hold above 100 again? So will MicroStrategy trade above 100 and hold? At this point, it keeps doing dead cat bounces. I don't see it happening. But anyway, put your thoughts in there. But for right now, Bitcoin is still. I can't see I couldn't see it going to 100,000 either. But at this point, there's a few things in the Bitcoin universe. We're waiting for tokenization of securities. Also, perpetual futures, things that the blockchain is going to help. I think those are also interesting investment areas coming forward. That these are something, basically, it's going to be a secondary use of the security coming out of Bitcoin. So when you look at it, stocks that have been totally smashed. So SIBO is one that I own. I bought a little bit more this week. I've just been trying to accumulate it. It's now down for the year because I think the exchanges are going out of business because of securitization and all this other stuff. I just don't see how the exchanges let that all go by, but could be wrong. Anyway, but this is a classic. So this is the other side of, so you have Bitcoin at lows. The market is taking the tokenization, securitization part. And now, will that transform equity markets, how we trade? Again, put your comments in here. But I think there's definitely something there, but the exchanges will embrace anything that's going to enhance security. So Bitcoin can still be going down, but we will still move, I would guess, toward using the blockchain technology. But that seems to be the trend. And with that, WA is asking me, do you like SIBO more than CME? I like SIBO more only because I know how acquisitive they are and what they're trying to do in the over-the-counter markets. But I also like ICE too. ICE owns part of Poly Markets. So they own the New York Stock Exchange. They own a lot of stuff. Basically, the same thing is happening. So I'm up money still on the SIBO, but I'm down money on my ICE. So I'm probably going to add a little more to this one. But they do own stake in Poly Markets. And if we do have him, is Mark here? Is he around? Is he around somewhere? I don't know. Is he coming from places, or does he know that he's co-hosting? Those are the questions I have, Amin. Any news? I guess I don't know. Oh, I know he was in the chat. I got to find out here. Let's see.
I just need Amin to make me live. Amin, are you there?
Oh, hold on.
Amin.
I hear something. I think we lost Amin.
I'm here. Hey, Mark.
Yeah, hey. Are we good? Am I using the right links?
You are, yes.
All right.
I was just
Let's make me live. Good morning, Andrew.
Like
how are you?
I'm good.
Great. All right. So we got a lot going on today. You know what's been interesting about this last market move is that we're starting to see chips and Mag 7 break correlation.
Ooh.
And I think that is really interesting. So here's a fun stock symbol, XMAG. And XMAG is the S&P 500 minus the Mag 7. And it is really performed well. It has really performed well.
XMAG?
XMAG.
So this is large cap without the Mag 7.
Yes. Look at the way this has moved. And then pull up a chart of like Microsoft or Meta. Well, Meta is having a day today. Oh my gosh.
Right.
I didn't see any news. Why is Meta up $50?
Boy, you are on vacation. Yeah. Meta's up $50 because they're going to sell their excess cloud capacity like Amazon is.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Look at them doing something that they should have done a year ago instead of going down.
Well, think about it. Do you think, because you said put up Microsoft, you think Microsoft's going to start selling some excess capacity now?
I mean, they already do, don't they? They've got the
they already got the cloud, right?
Azure. Right. They already have Azure. And
oh man, I never filled my dang AVAV trade. Oh man.
Yeah, there's another one. So what's interesting is like pull up a chart of like, I don't know, Micron. All right, MU. Are we looking at my computer or Andrew's?
No, I got it up. You could sit there and you don't have to do anything. You just talk and look handsome with your burly beard.
Okay. So this is a chart of Micron, right? Looks really strong, straight up, right? If I overlay Micron and we'll do Microsoft. Yeah.
Okay, Microsoft.
Yeah, I'm gonna move this to the 1 month so you can actually see the dynamic. Microsoft drops when Micron's going up, and Microsoft rallies when Micron stops going up.
Okay.
You will see the same pattern in like Apple. All right. Apple's bad days are Micron's good days, and Micron's not great days are the good days for Apple. There is some sort of, as you and I like to call it, vampire effect coming from memory and from CPU.
Okay.
AMD is going to have kind of this, you'll see almost the same thing with AMD. Look at this. AMD goes up, and a lot of times it's bad for, Apples and your Apples of the world and Microsofts, because these are the guys that are currently winning. Even
Right.
NVIDIA isn't really performing with the chips anymore. All right.
Sounds tired. It's hard to believe, but I guess just it got so expensive that it's run out of gas.
Yeah, and I believe that's the belief with a lot of the Mag 7. So I'm not sure this is a chip issue. This might be a Mag 7 issue. Andrew, when you and I were on the floor, the idea that the largest company in the world would carry a 35 PE was ridiculous. Like in the last few years, the biggest companies have been Apple, Microsoft, but going back, you'd be talking ExxonMobil or General Electric, and they would be carrying PEs in the teens, right? Exxon, right, even with the sell-off and knowing how much money they're going to make selling oil, it's got a 23 PE. Meanwhile, again, Apple is now carrying a higher price earnings ratio than NVIDIA, which I never thought was going to be possible.
Right.
Microsoft has finally gotten cheap. Meta, they're basically selling Mag 7 to buy chips. It is it looks like a straight momentum trade. So that I think is
what it peel back like what, 20 to 25% ish from the top.
Mm-hmm.
Google traded like 400 to 325. Microsoft 500 to 350. Apple's the only one that's kind of held up. I think NVIDIA's moved down about 10, 20% from the top. Facebook obviously is, was the biggest, or Meta, the biggest job. So, and even Amazon. Amazon is kind of totally forgotten at this point.
I think Amazon is one of the names where there's real value. I continue to not. They're going to sell $1 trillion of stuff next year, and yet they're worth less than an NVIDIA. They're worth less than a Microsoft. They're worth less than an Apple. And this is the one name in Mag 7 where I think there is real upside. In the last 6 months, the stock's up $8 year over year. It's year over year. This stock is only up about $15, $19. It has not really participated with any of the AI-ness. On a 2-year chart, it's only up 40. We'll call it $46. So, you do the math on that. That's good, right? It's up 20% in 2 years, but that's basically what you're supposed to get out of the SPY.
Right.
And SPY has done better. Yeah. SPY has done better. SPY is up, in the last 2 years, $200. It's almost a 40% move. So Amazon has underperformed SPY for the last 2 years. And that is, if you said to me, Mark, where's the one kind of Mag 7 stock that I could see, where I think there's real upside that has not been realized by the market, it might be Amazon.
I saw a very interesting trade go up in Amazon where they bought the 250s and sold the 300s for even money in Jan 2027, something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I didn't think that was too bad looking of a trade. It's like a good way to like kind of a 1x2 to cover stock. That's another subject for another day. But that went up. I saw that trade go up like 40 by 90,000 or something like that.
Oh wow.
So I think that's some fairly big money agrees with you. I think, Mark, right there. Yes, their sales are growing 17, 18%, 20% a year at Amazon. Yeah, you're right. That's going to be almost $1 trillion in revenue. That's a crazy number.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like, well, I guess if the U.S. government ever stops spending, but that's, what is that, 1/5 or something? What is the U.S. government, 7 trillion or whatever, some ridiculous number is. But like
the annual budget's like 4 something or other, isn't it? 4 trillion.
So it's getting there.
I know. They're going to outsell the value of Elon Musk next year.
So I would just say I think we're going to rally until the 4th of July. Of course, it's just an opinion, but
I mean,
I think there's like this morning we had that sell-off, and once again, your classic where you're looking for. You always say you want to look for the market selling off in the morning to rebound into the end of the day. It's that early sell-off that doesn't last.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, the counter trends you don't gap into a counter trend. So opening down tells me we're after 2 pretty nice rally days, tells me we're probably going to get bought and rally. It's just like, when we're in the middle of like a bear market, you never trust in a morning rally because they get sold. So you don't trust a morning sell-off because it's going to get bought. Yeah, Andrew, I mean, we have an old saying here at Option Pit, and it's just to remind people, because you and I were naturally bearish, right? Every trader looks at the market and goes, this is overvalued. This is absolute garbage. It's going, and this is not like a new trend. Andrew's been doing that since the 90s. He has thought at no point in time in his 30 years of trading has Andrew ever thought that the market was too cheap. I'm sorry. There's one time when that was the case. Two. The very bottom, March of 2009, Andrew was like, I'm buying everything. And at the very bottom of COVID, you and I both were like, this sell-off is silly. And we wanted to sell everything.
More market strategy. Just sell puts and everything now. It's stupid.
Yes. So, but, nothing says America like a rally into our 250th anniversary. There is no way, and I mean none, that we are going to get a sell-off today or tomorrow. Maybe next week. Middle of July, when everyone goes on vacation, it can be sneaky bearish. So you could see that, but not leading into the 4th of July. There's one thing all traders need to remember. This is America. Stocks go up. And that is going to be fed you leading into the 4th of July. That is what I think is coming.
By the way, speaking of stocks going up, I don't know if were you here for Next?
Yes. Big win in Apple.
You guys are kind of kicking it. Can you tell people what's going on here right after you guys are doing a breakdown of yesterday?
Yeah. So we launched our brand new version of SPX 0 days to expiration trading. And we put out a trade suggestion yesterday. And for those that traded it, they had a very, very good day.
Let me give you some specifics. Yesterday, we had our first cash zone trade for anyone new who joined the perfect trade last week. And Mark hit a pin, and everyone who took the trade, had the potential to make 313%. So we're going to spend the next few minutes breaking down that trade. if you don't know this, cash zone trades can happen every single day. It's just trading the same name every day at around the same time. About 1/3 of the days the market is open, we do have a cash zone trade. So it's possible that we could have another trade today at 1 or 1:30. And so today we're going to break down what happened yesterday. We're going to show you guys some pieces that go into a cash zone trade that maybe you didn't know and that we didn't cover last week. We're going to talk a little bit about how Mark predicts market direction. We're going to talk about how he picks the width of a cash zone, which is how wide his trade is going to be. So basically, Andrew, the way that this works, and for everyone at home, if this is your first time hearing about a cash zone trade and you're like, what the heck is that? The easiest way to think about a cash zone trade is like if you're shooting at a target, doing archery or whatever. And as long as you hit that target, you make money. Now, the closer you get to the middle of that target, the bullseye, the more money you're going to make. The trade that Mark put on yesterday for a cash zone, he hit the literal bullseye. And we'll show you guys that here tonight or today. What am I thinking? It's Wednesday in the middle of the day. So, Andrew, thank you for running State of the Market. Mark and I are going to take it from here, and we'll talk to you later. Stick around if you want. You can learn about
you guys are in good hands, but I'll listen. I'll listen. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, good catching up with you, bud. Thanks for holding down the fort while
Enjoy your vacation.
Relax with my 9,000 nieces and nephews, brothers and sisters, and fiancés. It's.
Thank you, Andrew. Mark, thanks for taking the extra time. If you haven't noticed, Mark has a little bit of a different setting today. He's on vacation with his family, and he wasn't supposed to be on today, but I asked him if he wouldn't mind joining just for a few minutes so that we could break down the cash zone trade from yesterday. So before we get into it, let's engage the chat here. For you guys sitting at home, put a Y in the chat, stands for yes. If you saw our breakdown last week of the perfect trade, give me a Y if you saw this yesterday. Last week, it was on Thursday. If you didn't, put an N in the chat. If you missed last week, it's not a problem. We'll give you kind of a quick orientation today while we break down last week's trade. But I want to get a sense from everyone who's here, how many of you have already seen this and how many of you haven't, so we know the information that we should share with you. Because like I said, Mark, you look for these every day, and not every day is going to be a perfect setup for the perfect trade. We don't want to trade every day. That would be forcing it. And you have an 81% win rate over the last 90 days making this style of trade, and you don't get that if you force a trade every day. No. So, okay, we got some yeses, we got some nos. For those of you that answered no, let me give you a quick orientation, and then we'll get into yesterday's specifics. Probably 4 years ago, this will be quick, I promise. Probably 4 years ago, Mark started to ask himself, could I make a perfect trade? What would a perfect trade actually look like? What would it have? What would it not have? And over the last 4 years, he's been building the strategy that we're going to show you today, the one that hit the 313% winner yesterday. Now, the beauty of this strategy lies in its simplicity, which you might think, how do you work for 4 years on something and come up with a simple answer? Well, the simple answers are usually the hardest to get to, but the best answers. And that's definitely true for this strategy. So, Mark, you only trade one name. What is the name that you trade for cash zone trades?
It is the S&P 500, SPX,
right,
which is the 500 largest stocks in the United States. So think your Mag 7 names, but also, Procter & Gamble, General Electric. It's the 500 biggest names essentially in the world. If you looked at the whole world, this would be 450 of the 500 largest names worldwide.
Right. So you and Andrew were talking earlier about the Mag 7 and Meta and Amazon. Those stocks are inside of this, but this is the entire market. Now, you can trade the SPY, but Mark, you want to trade options. So we trade specifically SPX. SPX is the symbol for options on the S&P 500. Now, you guys should be able to see my screen right now. This is the last couple months of action in the SPX, so options on the S&P 500. And as you can see, there's a huge range. I mean, we've got a swing, Mark, looking just at the last few months here from, well, I'm a little behind. Let's accelerate. Here, we got through today now. But at the beginning of April, if you guys remember what was happening there with tariffs, we were down around 6,300 and we've risen all the way to 7,500. So there is a range inside of the SPX. Now, Mark, when you go to build a cash zone every day, and for everyone here, a cash zone is just a type of trade. When Mark goes to build a cash zone, he really has to answer 3 questions for himself. And he doesn't look at the SPX on a day-to-day basis. He's looking intraday. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to change this chart from a daily chart to 5 minutes. And we're going to look just at yesterday's movement. So here's the first candle of the day. This is yesterday, June 30th. And you can see, up, down, up, and then kind of over. Through the end of the day, we ended right here. I think it was 7,499 and 35 cents was the closing price of SPX. Now, why is that important? Why am I telling you this? Well, Mark, every day at 1 p.m., so you would have about this much information at your fingertips. So you guys can see here, this is at 1 p.m., okay? This is the start of the day. This is at 1 p.m. Now, what Mark does at 1 p.m. is he picks which direction he thinks SPX is going to move by the end of the day. So will it be up, will it be down, or is it going to stay kind of flat? That's his first decision. The second decision is how far he thinks it might move in that direction. So if we're trading at 7,500 and Mark thinks, okay, the direction is up, does he think it's going to go 50 points up? Is it going to go 25 points up? Is it going to go 5 points up? That's the second thing he has to decide. And then third, he picks where the middle of his cash zone will go. Now, the middle of a cash zone is important because that's when you get paid the most. So yesterday, the middle of Mark's cash zone was 7,500. If you're still listening, put a 7,500 in the chat. I want you to remember that number. 7,500 is important. And as we walk through this example, the closer we get to 7,500, the more money you can make. If we are within $2 of that price, so if at 4 p.m. SPX is within $2 of 7,500, good, I see the 7,500's coming in. That's what we call a pin, and that's hitting the bullseye of that target. So Mark, let's break it down step by step yesterday. The information we're looking at on the screen right now is what you were looking at 1 p.m. when you said, am I going to put on a trade today? What direction? How far? I know you can't reveal the whole sauce, but let's get into a little bit. Right. Let's start with direction. How do you decide if we're going to go up or down? What do you look at?
So yesterday, we had a nice day on Monday. Markets do correlate to themselves. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but there is a phenomenon, and not everybody knows about this. It's sometimes called the law of even numbers. Even numbers in the S&P 500 act as a magnet. They act as a magnet. So yesterday we're trading around 74.90. There is going to be a market magnet that pulls us to that even number at 7,500. And that was part of how we knew by looking at this chart. You've got consistent momentum higher and you have this magnet effect on the upside. And then the other piece, I'm looking at TradingView with Leisha, and she and I are going through our numbers. Where's support? Where's resistance? And resistance directly underneath where we were trading. Support directly underneath where we were trading. Resistance significantly higher, right at 7,500. Law of even numbers, resistance. We knew we were heading straight to that 7,500 number.
I mean, if you go to my chart here, you can see this is what Leisha was looking at yesterday. If you guys don't know this, Mark and Leisha both trade cash zones together. So she uses her pitchforks, uses lines of support and resistance. So this is what you and Leisha were looking at yesterday, and you decided, okay, I think we're going to go up maybe a little bit or stay kind of flat. Now, the next thing you have to decide, here's just a zoomed in version of that chart, you guys. You can see that blue line sort of acting as a cap. And then the red line that's going from the middle of the left side of your screen to the right. See that red line that cuts right through the green highlight? That's going to be the middle of a pitchfork. It's called the midline. That's a really important area support. So you can see that red candle at the very end there kind of bouncing off that a little bit. This is some of the information that Mark and Leisha used to pick direction. So you guys yesterday
Now,
decided, okay, we think we're going to
clarify
magnetize.
something here.
Please.
So people are looking at these numbers saying those aren't SPX numbers. This is S&P 500 futures. This is the chart of the S&P 500 futures. So they do not trade at the exact same price. They trade 1-to-1 with SPX, so we can use it on the chart, but it does have there's a spread between them. It's a convoluted story around cost of carry. You guys don't care, but just if you're looking at the prices, these are the correct prices. This is just S&P futures.
You guys use that for the charting. That's something you break down with Cash Zone members, but you use that information, including what's baked inside of the futures, to determine direction. So after you do this, you set up a Cash Zone. Now, we talked about this last week. If you guys haven't seen this before, I encourage you to really pay attention to this. I just talked about this briefly. A Cash Zone has a couple different pieces. It's going to have a low side, a high side, and then a middle. The closer we get to that middle number, the more money that we can make off of a Cash Zone trade. So let's take yesterday, for example. When you went to put on the Cash Zone, Mark, I think we were trading around like 7,400. I'll show that in just a second. But you determined, okay, the market is going to go up. Now, you set your Cash Zone, we call this a width, how wide it is, of 10 points. So from 74.95 on the left to 75.05 on the right. Sometimes you have Cash Zones that are 20 points wide, 30 points wide. Why yesterday did you choose a Cash Zone that was 10 points wide?
A couple of reasons. One, I had a very narrow target. We were going to hit 7,500. That was, like I said, the magnet effect, the even number phenomenon, the law of even numbers. And then when I went to build it, I run through multiple scenarios, and it all bakes down to risk, reward, and what is the potential for movement in the market. And looking at 1 o'clock, the potential for movement in the market was small, and it ended up being small. If you look at where we were at 1 o'clock, it was around 74.90 over the next. And where did we close the day? 74.99. That is small movement for a product that costs $7,500 to handle. We had a small movement day. And so then it's where I know my target, where is my risk reward most optimized? And in this case, it was a tighter zone. So
what might a day look like that would cause you to pick a wider zone? I assume the day would probably, SPX price action would be a lot more volatile. You might have big swings throughout the day.
Yeah, you've got more intraday movement. The more intraday movement, typically the wider our zones are going to be, because they're going to hold some additional premium into the options trade that I'm setting up. So I'm able to create something that costs less and returns more. When we don't have a lot of intraday movement, the premiums you can get for stuff that's further out of the money start to shrink, and that will generally push us into a tighter range trade.
How much does SPX move on an average day? What's about my expected move in SPX?
That is an excellent question. Right now, the average true range of the S&P is about $88 a day. It is toward the high end. It is normally we're going to place that right around $70. That would be, in a normal market, it's going to be about $70.
So over the course of a day, I could see a 70-point swing from the lowest price of the day to the highest price of the day. Yes. So when you look at this at around 1 p.m., you're trying to see, okay, how far have we moved so far? What kind of move do I think might still be left inside of the SPX before the close?
Yes, and the options will actually tell us how much move is left inside. And one of the reasons why we use that 1 p.m.-ish timeline is because a lot of that movement has already happened in the first hour of the day. And so it takes a lot of the uncertainty, But the market, especially when you get big movements in the morning, the market has like the shock effect that will hold the value of options higher. So when we've got a day where we've just kind of steadily rallied, options are going to be at a discount. That's going to move us into a tighter zone.
Let me quickly sum up before we move through this trade. So only trading SPX. We look to do this around 1 p.m. The reason why we wait is because the market can become more predictable later in the day. You kind of flush out that early movement. In an average day, SPX moves around 70 or 80 points. Now, if it's a day that looks like a tighter range, we might have a tighter cash zone like the one you see on your screen right now. This is only 10 points wide from left to right. If we have a day where SPX is making wild moves over 70 points, 100 points or more, which we can see and we have seen regularly over the last few months, this cash zone might actually be a little bit wider, sometimes 20 points, sometimes 30 points. Fair?
Fair.
You guys with me in the chat? That makes sense? Give me a yes. Let me know you're with me. Yesterday's cash zone, 10 points wide, 7,500 is our final target at the end of the day. Again, the closer we get to 7,500, the more money we can make. Let's look at what happened with the price action. So at around 10 a.m. yesterday, SPX was trading at 74.67. Now you might say, Hannah, that's outside of the cash zone. You're absolutely right. We haven't even picked the cash zone or put on the trade yet. Like Mark said, we wait a little bit later in the day for some of that action to flush out. Around yesterday, it was 2 p.m. This is the alert that got sent out. So I want to break this down for you guys, okay? In every cash zone trade, there are 3 pieces. These are simple trades. It's a formula of calls and puts. Mark has done this for 4 years. He's taught hundreds of traders how to execute these. The beauty of setting up your trade using this formula is really 2 things. Because you might look at this and say, Hannah, why wouldn't you just buy SPX calls? You could if you're ready to spend $2,200 on a single contract. Buying at the money calls or puts in SPX is really expensive. The reason why Mark constructed the trade this way is because the perfect trade should cost around $100, around $200, so that everyone can do it. Not everyone feels comfortable making a $2,000 directional bet every day.
Well,
so
Hannah,
we changed that formula for this trade.
And Hannah, let's take this one quick step further. If you bought the 74.90 call, just the straight call, at the time that I sent out this cash zone trade, we went up and you would have not made money because we didn't go up enough.
Right.
All right. When you buy a straight call, you need like real movement. The beauty of a cash zone trade is we can set it up for movement, but we can also set it up for there's not going to be a lot of movement, which is what we did here, even though we went up.
This alert went out at 2 p.m. I'm going to show you what happened to SPX price right after this, okay? So on the top, you'll see this is an alert that gets posted. You can actually get that sent directly to your phone. On the bottom there, this went to a staff member here at Option Pit named Nicole. You can see this is a screenshot of the actual email that she got inside of her inbox. Yesterday morning, we also spent some time with all new members of Zero DTE who trade cash zones with us, walking through how do I actually execute this trade. There's a couple pieces to it. How do I put this on? And how do I set up my automatic sells? That's super important. So when you read this alert, it says buy to open SPX. It's always SPX. It's always an option that expires that day. So June 30th options. It takes you through the same cash zone I just told you, 74.95, 7,500, 75.05. The most important part of this alert is this. Sell most up 100%, let the rest run. The perfect trade should have very clear rules. The rule that you use, Mark, for every cash zone trade is you sell 2/3 of your position up 100%. You don't babysit the position to sell that
No.
and cash in that 100% either. It works like this. You go into your brokerage. You spend 2 minutes setting up this trade, 74.95, 7,500, 75.05. You press execute. Right after it fills, you put in your sell order. You say, when this hits 100%, I want to sell 2/3. And then you leave the last third of the trade to run through expiration. The reason why you can do that is because SPX has cash settled options. That means you don't have to close the option. At the end of the day, if your trade closes profitably, you get what we call a cash deposit, and your winnings from that piece of the trade are deposited the next morning. So let's walk through what happened with this trade, you guys. This alert goes out at 2. Very clear instructions. Stick to the rules. Here's where we are at 1. This is a little before the alert, 74.97. And like Mark said, he knew we would magnetize around the 7,500, so made that the center of the cash zone. At 2 p.m., we're at 74.96. Still inside the cash zone. At 3 p.m., we've gone up, but we're still inside the cash zone, 75.03. Now, this push higher going into 3 p.m. would have triggered us to automatically sell 2/3 at up plus 100%. So what that means for you in this trade is you've already taken 2/3 of your pie off the table for double your money. You've broke even and then some. And now you're just waiting to see. You can't lose. It's impossible
at a minimum, you're gonna make about 35%. And depending on, some people like to sell 75% because they want to lock in a over 50% return. Some people like to do 50% because they want to go for the home run. They want to really let it run. You have that flexibility. We have some very specific guidance on how to manage that first part of your sell, and we walk you through that when you're a member of Zero DTE. We talked about it for about 25 minutes yesterday at our kickoff party for Zero DTE on Tuesday.
3 p.m., 75.03, we automatically sell 2/3. Now this means that the rest of the trade is on the house. By 4 p.m., we settle at 74.99 and 35 cents. So we are 65 cents away from hitting a perfect pin. Of course, anything within $2 of the center of your cash zone is going to be a pin. Now, people look at this and they're like, how often does this happen? That sounds crazy. Like, how often does this happen? Let me give you a hard number. In the last 90 days, Mark has made 19 cash zone trades, including this one. He's made 20. 3 of those, so 16% of the time, he has hit a pin. When you add in yesterday, I guess that's 4 times out of 20.
That's 25%.
So you're up to 25% that you've hit a pin.
Oh, no, that's 20%. Now, I'm sorry, 20%.
20%. That is really high. And when you were first trading this, and I don't mind sharing this with everyone here, when you were first trading this, Mark, pins were a lot more rare. We maybe saw one pin every 40 trades. We're now seeing them a lot more commonly. Can you explain why that is? Does it have to do with your process? Does it have to do with the way the market's moving? Why have you been able to increase the likelihood that we get this close to the closing price?
Yeah, it's a combination of constantly working on a process, right? Even the perfect trade can get better, right? So we're always looking to improve the perfect trade. And Leisha and I are working on that. And we came up with a couple of things we thought would make it better. 2, there's a phenomenon in the market that, involving, call it mechanical forced option selling. That is making movements more predictable and pins more common. And that is the combination of us kind of continuing to improve our process. We never stop trying to get better. And changes in market, i.e. forced option selling, has made, I believe, getting pins and predicting end of day much easier.
So what I'm hearing is a new phenomenon inside of the market is making it easier to predict future price of SPX. The proof is in your own trades. We used to see 1 pin every 40 or 50 trades. We've seen 4 pins in the last 20 trades that you've made, and not 20 trades in the last year either, you guys. This is 20 trades in the last 90 days. This is extremely recent. So let's talk about what happened at the end of this trade. Now, remember, we've already sold 2/3 of the trade up 100%. We set that up automatically to execute. So we still have 1/3 of the trade on the table. At 4 p.m., when SPX price settles right inside of our cash zone, right at the middle, close to a pin. The last 1/3 of this trade settled for a 742% win. That doesn't mean our whole trade was 742%. We ended up selling that last piece and we made 313% on the entire trade in 3 hours. But this, you guys, when you see this right here, this 742% at the middle of the cash zone, this is why learning how to use cash zones is so important. Mark said earlier, if there's a misconception with a lot of people, and I just want to clear this up for you guys if you're an options trader, because this is a misconception I used to have, and I talk to a lot of traders. They think that they can make a lot more trading directional options. That means just puts and calls. And that's why sometimes people have an aversion to learning a strategy that maybe uses a formula of puts and calls together, because they think, well, if I just trade the call, I'll make more. As Mark was saying, if you traded the call on this trade, you actually wouldn't have even won. But by trading in this particular way, by using a cash zone, which Mark can teach you to set up, it's not difficult. I see a lot of people in the chat right now talking about being able to do this. You could have hit a 742% winner on a piece of the trade and a 313% total profit in 3 hours. Yes, you have to learn how to set up a cash zone. Is it going to be worth your time? You be the judge.
Yes.
These are the results. These are the results. I do want to read a comment that I just saw in the chat from Jerry. And I want to point this out because a lot of times people forget about a trade and it can go against them and they can have a big problem. With cash zones, we want you to forget about the trade. You can forget about the trade. That's the point. That's why it's the perfect trade. You can put it on, set up your exits, and literally forget about it. Jerry said, I submitted 45 cents, that was the entry price, immediately and was busy scalping NDX. Later, I heard a ring and wondered what. I switched accounts and saw the fly fill, so he got his cash zone. Then I went back to NDX. After the bell, I saw the fly and my other account expired pennies in front of the short middle legs. Wow, I had 10 flies on that I'd forgotten about during the day that expired perfectly. Wow. Is that going to be your experience every day? No. But who doesn't want a trade that they can put on and forget about and come back to 313% in 3 hours? I can't think of one person who wouldn't want that. So, Mark, cash zones happen every day. This trade yesterday could have turned $100 into $413, $1,000 into over $4,000, $2,000 into over $7,000. A lot of you who just joined Zero DTE, if you took this trade yesterday and you put $1,000 into it, that's an annual membership to Zero DTE paid for in your first trade. Heck, that's a 2-year membership paid for in your first trade. A question we get a lot when people join new strategies is, how long is it going to take for me to make my money back? The answer for Zero DTE is it could have taken a single trade.
Yeah.
We shared this with you guys last week when we talked about the perfect trade. This is the track record for the last 90 days trading this strategy. 81% win rate, 33 trades, 27 wins, 6 losses. You can see the average return per trade. I didn't get a chance to put yesterday's trade on here yet. That's obviously going to increase that win rate just a little bit. And instead of 7 triple-digit wins, we now have 8 with yesterday's 313% winner. Mark, you could have the next cash zone trade as soon as this afternoon, and it will be released only for people who are members of Zero DTE. So let's take people through, like, you just watch this. There's a lot of potential in this trade. What can you actually do about that? Well, we do have a special offer right now for you guys to join. Zero DTE includes daily alerts. So the screenshot that we showed you of the trade that went out, the email, the push notification, you get access to that. You receive an alert every day. So Mark, if it's today at 1 p.m. and you decide that you're not confident in the direction, you don't like the way the close is setting up, and you're not going to predict SPX closing price, which happens 2/3 of the time. I want to be clear about that. This is not an everyday trade. We don't want it to be an everyday trade, but you will get an everyday alert. You'll get an alert that says no cash zone today if we don't have one. And if we do have one, it'll look exactly like what I showed you guys earlier, the specifics of the trade. We have classes and videos that you can watch on how to implement those trades yourself. So you get a daily alert. It will say cash zone, here it is, or no cash zone. See you tomorrow. There is a live 0 DTE masterclass, Mark, that you guys are starting next week. So this is perfect timing. If you are seeing this here today, you still have time to get in before the live masterclass. It starts on July 6th. It'll be all of next week through July 10th. We'll have 5 days, 5 hours focusing on all the specifics to learn 0 DTE. So if this feels outside of your zone, Hannah, I don't know what a cash zone is. Hannah, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can figure that out. Join. Go to the masterclass. The masterclass is going to answer any question that you have about trading 0 DTE. And we also have a 14-day money back guarantee. So if you join and you go through the masterclass and you're not understanding things or you decide it's not for you, we will just give you your money back. We're not going to keep your money, try to switch you into something. We give you a full refund. Here are some other things included in the package. You guys can read. I have a summary slide that's going to show you this, but anything that you would need in order to use this strategy, we're going to support you. We have a 24/7 member chat room. There's a daily newsletter that goes out. You guys who are here, who are members of 0 DTE, feel free to chime in the chat. You guys have the group is amazing, so supportive. For people who joined new, I went in yesterday and I was watching this cash zone get executed, and people who are trying to make their first trade are in there asking questions, and people who are regulars, Jerry, some of the others, are answering those questions. Yeah. It's a very back and forth. Leisha's in there commenting on the closing price. Mark, you're in there too. You said, I think we might get a pin today. Like, that chat is really exciting, especially going into the close. So you have a lot of support. I do want to let's post the link. We could have a trade today, but here's what's really important. We have some special offers happening right now. So our 1-year membership is normally $2,999. It's $1,000 off of that right now. And our 2-year membership, which is normally around $5,000, is only $2,999. Like I said, you guys, the trade that we made yesterday, if you put $1,000 in it, could have paid for a full year or 2 years of this membership in a single trade. So these prices that you see on the screen are going away tomorrow. I'm pretty sure tomorrow is the day that we're expiring this.
Yeah, and Hannah, if you're nervous saying I'm not going to know how to do a cash zone trade, what if he puts out a trade today before the masterclass? I'm going to be live from my beach house view. I'm going to be live at 1:00, and if we have a cash zone, we're going to do it together live today. So if you join in the next 2 hours, you're saying I'm not going to be ready to. I'm afraid to join. We're going to be live with you today to trade that with you guys. If we do in fact have a cash zone, you're going to get to hang out with me, hang out with Leisha, hang out with everybody in the chat room. It's going to be great.
The other thing that I loved seeing in the chat room yesterday, Mark, was if you guys have questions about this, by the way, put them in the chat right now. Mark and I will be here for about 10 more minutes to answer some of your questions. So if you have a question about this strategy, I know we went through some of it a little quickly. Please put them in the chat because there could be a trade today. This deal is expiring. It's important to us that we get your questions answered in a timely manner. The other thing I want to point out though, Mark, and I think this is an exciting level for people to aspire to in their own trading. Yesterday, when I went in the chat room, I saw someone named Ed G, who's been here and has traded forever with us, loves the cash zone.
Great guy. We love him.
He put a message in the chat because you released this trade around 1 p.m. yesterday. He put a message in the chat that said, I set up my own cash zone around 11 a.m. and he picked basically the same levels that you had picked. So when you released the trade, he said, I'm actually already in this trade. I set it up a couple of hours ago. And he also hit a winner on his own. Now, does everyone want to do that and be able to set up their own trades? No. But that is an opportunity for you to be able to learn to do this on your own. We talk about this a lot at Option Pit. If you just want the fish, we'll give you the fish. If you want to learn how to fish, we can teach you how to do it.
We want you to do that. We're not going to make you, right? We're not going to force you to try and develop your own trading system. But if you want to do that, we want to give you the tools to do so. And that's really important to us. But if you want me to drive the car, I'll drive the car for you. But if you want to learn how to drive a car, I just taught my 16-year-old how to do it. I'm happy to teach you. That's really what we're about here at Option Pit.
Yes, the Zero DTE paid session is today at 1 p.m. If there is a trade, like Mark said, you guys will go over it together live. So it's actually a perfect setup for those of you who are thinking about this. You could do your first trade live with everyone else in the room. They want to know, Mark, if they can hang out at the beach house with you. This is a Sebastian family exclusive week, so I think it's off the table. But I will say, for anyone who joins a paid subscription of ours, we do usually host once a year an in-person get-together. And for people who own paid subscription, you get a first invitation to that.
And they're a lot of fun. But hey, if you want to make your way to Cassopolis, Michigan, and hang out with me at Stone Lake, let me know. I'll grab a beer with you at the Taj Bar and Grill.
Any other questions that you guys have, pop them in the chat. A really popular question we get about this, and I think this is most people's hang up with this, Mark, is I've never made this style of trade before. Do you want to take a second and talk directly to someone who thinks that about this strategy and thinks that they can't make a cash zone?
You can. That's a lot of times what I find is really successful people, they find something that works and they go, I don't want to explore any further because I don't want to have the opportunity to fail. By learning new techniques, it will make you a better trader. And Leisha and I are not going to let you fail. You can figure this out. You're going to get to trade with us, and over time, you will become an Ed G or a Jerry and build your own cash zones, or a Vicky, and build your own cash zones. You'll be one of the people in that chat talking with everybody about what they've set up. Like the days that I don't put out a cash zone, a lot of times these people, our traders, will still be in the chat talking about what they're doing in terms of trading that day. You will learn, and it is much easier than you realize. It is much easier than you realize. The irony of calling them complex trades is they're actually much easier to be successful in than a simple call and put.
100%. 100%. It takes some of the price out of it. It takes, I need this move by this time out of it. It actually, you do 2 more minutes of work on the front end and you get paid on the back end. Let's talk about greed for a second. This strategy over a 90-day period could have 10x your account. So we ran a $2,000 account with 25% of that account in each trade and paying ourselves profits. And over a 90-day period, that $2,000 turned into over $23,000. So if you want to just pure greed and pure upside potential of a strategy using options in a controlled mechanical way every day, this is your move. You can set up the trade. You can forget about it by the end of the day. And these aren't base hits. These are huge upside opportunity. Mark, you trade this with your own real money. You've been trading it with your own real money for 4 years as we've refined this strategy. And I think it's the biggest compliment you could give a strategy is using it with your own money. I mean, you have 2 kids. You have like retirement accounts. This is what you're doing with it. You're actually using it inside of this strategy to pull down those same profits.
I mean, why would I be putting out a trade that I wouldn't do myself? That is the most. And folks, Hannah, it's a loud secret out there that 99% of the guys that's sitting in my chair don't actually trade. That is categorically the opposite of how we operate here at Option Pit. Every single one of our traders trades. Every single one of our trader is trying to make money for themselves along with trying to help you build your wealth.
Let's look a little bit at the price action so far today on SPX, Mark. We opened up with a huge first candle down, and then we sort of climbed back out of it. We've had a swing so far today from 75.07 all the way down to 74.49. So nothing crazy. That's what, 13 points. Kind of typical to start the day. It actually oddly looks a little bit like, well, this was the dip here and swing higher, but when do you start looking for a cash zone? So like, are you even paying attention to this price action, or will you wait till 1 to decide?
Of course, because I'm doing other things, but I'm always looking. I'm kind of watching all day, um, and right around when I finish up Delta Strike at usually around 12:30, 12:45. That is the time that I am really determining exactly where we're going to go. But I am watching it all morning. Today is likely going to be a less volatile day, which I think will lend itself to a cash zone play.
Quick reminder, I'll put this back on the screen one last time for you guys. On the left, you can see everything that's included in a membership to 0DTE. 0DTE is where Mark trades cash zones. And you cannot forget that this subscription gets full access to Leisha as well. She helps Mark determine direction. She sends out pivot points for her pitchforks every morning. She is very hands-on in this strategy. So if you've been looking to get started trading with Leisha as well, you get to work with both of them inside of 0DTE. The last thing I'll mention, we do offer some payment plans for the prices that you see on your screen. So if you need to break that 1 year into 2 or 3 payments, or the 2 year into 2 or 3 payments, that is something that we will offer. If you take a payment plan, we also don't withhold the strategy until you pay the whole thing. So even if you only pay a chunk of the 1 year or 2 year membership today, we will still give you full access to the live trading session at 1 p.m. You'll still get full access to the live masterclass that starts next week. So click the link that's above your screen. It says lock in your 0DTE membership. You can also give us a phone call. The number's on your screen, 888-872-3301. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown of a cash zone. We love to bring you strategies that are working and show you in real time that they work. The trade that we just broke down is a trade that was placed yesterday, 313%, simple cash zone play. Could have another one today. Mark, thanks so much for joining from vacation. I'm sure you have a bunch of things that you're supposed to be doing today, but we really appreciate you making the time to break this down. So hopefully new people can join before we have a potential cash zone today.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. So
Thank
join
you, Mark.
today, join that class. It's going to be fun.
Thank you guys for being here. 0DTE, give us a call. Bye, Amin.
Thanks, Amin.